Is it game over for this crypto cycle? Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. There is going to be a lot of warnings in this video. Specifically, the number one warning that I'm going to be giving out to you guys is the level at which we need to be watching on Bitcoin if we lose it. Overall, I am seeing some positive signs in the market. I will address those. But first, let's start off with Bitcoin. We're down below 57K. It has been, 4 months now? It feels like forever, right? Since we've seen any positive price action in this market. Altcoins absolutely decimated, washing out all of the gains that anyone basically had if they didn't take profits from 2023 into 2024. And more specifically, check out the Fear and Greed Index. We're at 38. That's right. We're now at the same levels that we were at back in October before the market even woke up in a large way. I strongly encourage everyone to join the free Discord. There's going to be a link at the top of the description below. This is one of the most valuable and informative Discords out there, and it's completely free. There's a free side that has a ton of free crypto gems, free market strategies, guides, market trends, free charts, and there's also going to be new cheat sheets dropped in this Discord. And already, we have a ton of testimonials from members of the Discord that have been absolutely loving it. So what are you waiting for? Go and click the link at the top of the description below and join the free Discord. This is very telling on where we are at right now in this market. It's kind of crazy that this is where we are at right now. Now, I want to take you guys back in time a little bit to FTX. Bitcoin was down 28.10% in just a couple days. Going off of the high, this is basically like a dead cat bounce in August of 2022, it was down about 38.75%. Now, overall, if we're going all the way back to the all-time high that we hit back in 2021, Bitcoin was down well over 77%. Now, I want to go back in time to mid-cycle. 2020 into 2021, Bitcoin down 63.39%, and we're going off of basically just the February 13th timeframe to March 13th. In 1 month, Bitcoin lost 63, almost 64% of its value. The entire market decimated. Everyone thought it was the end of crypto. There's absolutely no way that this is the bottom. Bitcoin has to go down to sub 3K. It's going to go down to sub 1K. Like the calls back in March of 2020, it was ridiculous. Let's just say that, right? But even if we go off of the highs back in June of 2019, it was down 72.20%. Now I want to go and show you guys where we are at right now in this cycle. If we look at Bitcoin currently, off of the highs in March to where we're at right now, 23.23%, even going off of this candle back in May, 23.40%. If we completely lose this level, the next area is this demand zone down here, 31.47%. If we lose that area, then we are coming back down into the January lows. We're talking about 44%. The question here is, can people stomach that? Would they be able to still be a part of this market? Would they still be buying the dip? Would they even, want to participate, or would they sell out? Well, I know that majority would probably be out at that time. In fact, majority are already out of this market. Guys, Bitcoin has been going sideways for well over 114 days. In that 114 days, it has been an entire, chop zone, essentially, of just up, down, killing altcoins during this process because Bitcoin dominance is also now on the upside move. We're now at 54%. So we're not in an altcoin market yet. We're still in a Bitcoin market. But I want you all to put yourselves in the shoes of TradFi. All right. TradFi wins because they manipulate markets. What we saw earlier this year with the ETFs was TradFi taking a piece of the market, having some control over the market. Everyone celebrated the ETFs, and I said, guess what? This is a welcome mat for TradFi manipulation. And I personally believe that we are seeing that right now. But outside of just price action manipulation, we will see mainstream media really pushing narratives, right? Currently, the big news is that Germany is selling off a ton of Bitcoin. They have sent 738 million in Bitcoin to exchanges over the last 2 weeks. Is that a top or a bottom signal? Outside of this, we also have over here, German government still holds over 40,000 Bitcoins after recent sale, which is hinting at, guess what? You better be fearful. They have over 40,000 Bitcoins. They're worth over 2.3 billion. Oh no, $2.3 billion versus an asset that has $1.1 trillion in market capitalization. Outside of that, we also have a looming Mt. Gox situation. They moved 2.7 billion in Bitcoin to new wallet addresses 46 minutes ago. 47,000 Bitcoin. This is how they get you, right? Like all of the news around Germany and around Mt. Gox, you look at the numbers, right? You're sitting here, and even with like Mt. Gox, right? It's not just 3,000 Bitcoin. It's well over 100,000 Bitcoin. I believe the last time that we looked at this, it was like 140,000 Bitcoin. To a lot of people, and especially in this market where we're looking at Bitcoin and there's only 21 million of it, a lot of people will look at that and say, that's 140,000 Bitcoin. That's going to kill the price action. The whole market's going to collapse. Or they look at the value here. Like if I looked at this, right, $2.3 billion, that's a lot of money, right? Typical retail investors will look at that and say, that's going to kill the market. But when we actually look at it versus the market capitalization for Bitcoin, the 24-hour trading volume for Bitcoin, this is not significant. This is not like massive, valuations that are going to absolutely demolish Bitcoin. Now, obviously, yes, have we been selling off? 100%. Why is that? Why are we seeing major sell-offs? Well, it's because we're seeing liquidations as well during this entire process that's going to add fuel to the fire. But it's because retail is acting impulsively. I've always said this in the past. Even when it came to like the FTX situation, or even when it came to like March of 2020, right? We saw retail panic, acting impulsively, acting on emotions. We're seeing the same exact thing happening right now. I'm not saying that this is a bottom signal. I'm not saying that we're at the bottom. I would be very surprised if we weren't at the bottom here, because again, I'm going off of the sentiment, I'm going off of the emotions, I'm going off of, the headline articles. But this is typically what we want to see at the bottom, especially when fear and greed is at these lows. This is very good. This is a very good sign. Now, also, I want to talk about TradFi manipulation, because when we talk about TradFi manipulation, like JP Morgan says that he's done talking about Bitcoin, I don't care. This goes back to January. All right. Just in April, we have Jamie Dimon saying Bitcoin is a fraud. There's no hope for Bitcoin as a currency. But then also, back in December of 2023, we saw crypto is for criminals. JP Morgan has been fined $39 billion, and it has its own token in this space. It uses blockchain technology. So it's comical on what's being pushed, right? And we'll see a lot of headline articles like this from prominent TradFi guys that are, pushing the narrative around, X, Y, and Z. But on the back end, what we will actually see is positive news, positive price action. Right now, as we're seeing all these doomsday headline articles and everyone's talking about how the market's done, it's dead, everyone's missing out on a key indicator, which is the bullish news on the back end, which we will talk about. Now, I want to say one thing. All right, it was obviously too early to call this, which I did say that, right? I said obviously a bit too early to call it now, but this is what I would love to see on the lower timeframes for Bitcoin. Now, lower timeframes got decimated today, but the higher timeframes is more important, which I will talk about. But we have bullish divergence to play out on the 4-hour while Bitcoin chops a bit lower, taking out longs and causing even more fear. This would be the ideal scenario for Bitcoin short term before we impulse back above 60K. With the Mt. Gox fear-mongering happening and the narrative getting stronger regarding the dumping of over 140,000 plus Bitcoins, I personally see this as a bottom signal. The most bearish events and rumors get pushed at the bottoms. Coinbase, Binance, etc. were supposed to collapse after FTX did. Guess what? It never happened. Will this be the last dip? Of course not, but this should be the last major downside move for a while until we break over the March highs. The key here is creating a bullish structure. We need to see higher lows and higher highs. Until that happens, Bitcoin and the market remains bearish short term. And yes, we still are technically bearish. For anyone out there that is very bullish on the market, yes, we're bullish long term. We're bullish for the cycle still. We need to maintain this low. This is the area that we need to maintain. We need to maintain this low back on May 1st. So far, we got pretty close to it. I want to see this hold. Now, the structure here and what we're ultimately looking for is the price action to continue to chop here. If we lose that low, it's not a big deal. We still want to get a major move back above the overall structure here, which is on the daily, $58,000. We want to see a move above that. We technically already lost the structure on the daily. On the weekly, we haven't, right? Like this is what the weekly looks like. Now, if we do weekly close here, it's not going to be a good sign. This is a very bearish structure. And it's hinting at much lower, which we will talk about. But as we look at Bitcoin, if we are going to chop a little bit more here, if we're going to chop all the way down to like 55K possibly, which we can, we 100% can. If we hold this low, that's a very good sign, but we could still chop here. We want this to chop. Why? Well, look at RSI. We want the RSI to maintain an uptrend. Now, this could come down a little bit lower. Ultimately, we would want it to look like this. But if this continues to chop in terms of price action up here, and RSI starts to kind of form a little bit of a chop to the upside, this is bullish divergence on the daily. This would be very good, and it would be a bullish sign that Bitcoin is going to have a move to the upside. Now, also what I have been watching for is the weekly. The number one thing on the weekly that I have been actually looking at is the RSI. For the longest time, RSI has been extremely overbought on Bitcoin, which is a warning sign that we are going to see a correction. We are now at the same levels that we saw back in August and September. And I did address this in yesterday's video as well. This whole area here is very good to see Bitcoin back into for the RSI. We need this. We want to see this for a major move to happen on the upside. It's supporting a much larger move on the upside. If we want to see 80 to 100K, we need this to happen. So this is actually a very healthy structure. The price action structure is not healthy. That's bearish. We want this to maintain this low. We want to hold above this low. Holding above this low, that's healthy. It's bullish for the long term. Short term, it's still bearish technically until we start to form higher highs and higher lows. But even if we go back in time, right, we can see major areas in which Bitcoin was overbought. Here's 2019 for an example, right? Overbought. We have that major correction into March of 2020, obviously. Now, March of 2020, this was a black swan event. It was uncalled for. Nobody could predict that. But you know, as you do see this, right, RSI did correct back into a major area during even the bear market. So then this supported a much larger move in the market, which we did get. And it was a pretty much, I would say that this is like a blow off top almost, because we went from, you know, $3,000 or so all the way to almost $70,000. It's a massive move in the market. But as we look right now on the daily, we're still watching for the RSI to play out here in a bullish structure, aka bullish divergence. We want to see this low hold on the daily right now. It doesn't look too bad, but we already lost the daily candle closes back here. Is that extremely bearish? Is it, something that, we could look at and say, oh, look at, we're going much lower? Yeah, technically you could. But if we look at this and we actually look at the overall structure, we could start to form something like this, where we have, the daily closes here. Now we need to actually close here on today's daily candle. But if we look at this, we could easily just kind of chop around here, maintain this low, never see sub, $56,400 and just impulse from here, which would be very good to see. That would be very healthy as well. We could still lose this structure and not be in, an extremely bearish territory down here in like 50K and all that kind of stuff, because the overall sentiment is already killed. Everyone is already pretty much done with this market. They think that we're in a bear market. They think that's game over. This entire move here, though, is also supporting the fact that, one, RSI is reset. We're now starting to see RSI forming a bullish divergence after supporting a bearish divergence. For an example, we were, moving to the upside on price action all the way through here, right? While RSI, it didn't really start its downtrend until roughly May 20th. RSI was forming bearish divergence during this time. It wasn't actually supporting this move. So we were expecting to have a sell-off, not this much, but we were expecting a sell-off regardless. Now that we're starting to form some bullish divergence, what I would like to see is RSI, let me draw this out, RSI have a move where we start to kind of chop here and we just build to the upside. That would be very, very good. While, the price action kind of chops it sideways, waiting for that big impulsive move with the RSI. That could very well happen with the ETH ETF approvals, which, by the way, for those that are not paying attention to the ETH ETF approvals, I personally see that actually happening very soon, which we will talk about. But over here, I said, this speaks volumes of what's really happening right now. The despair is very clear on the timeline. Currently, the sentiment is worse than FTX collapsed. I feel like the space is completely dead right now with no signs of life. Markets don't top on fear. The top won't feel like the top because the euphoria will be intoxicating. I strongly believe that we haven't hit the top yet. Now, if you look here, right, this is the biggest liquidation event since the FTX collapse. Again, that marked the bottom. Big shout out to the Encrypt30. Again, he's a part of the Discord. He actually helps me with the Discord. We have potential for a double bottom in the larger range here. Have marked off the next logical place if we were to lose the current lows. Structurally, we do not want to see Bitcoin go below the green box. There has been a huge amount of spot selling. Hash rate has been tailing off, meaning miners are capitulating. The good news is Bitcoin is near FTX collapse levels on this, which mark the bottom. Bitcoin short-term holder price is around 64K, meaning anyone who purchased Bitcoin in the last 180 days are underwater, some likely panic selling. Open interest is now at a very dangerous level and the highest since February, which gave the fuel for the short squeeze from 50K to 73K in 19 days. Again, that's what we want to see. Here we have, don't write Bitcoin off here, mid-cycle cool off until proven otherwise, fifth wave to come. And yes, this is exactly what we are looking at, right? We're looking at that mid-cycle cool off. If this is the mid-cycle cool off, then we are expecting the fifth wave, which is well above 80K, well above 100K. And this level here, we don't want to lose that green box. That's around roughly 50,000 to like 53K. We don't want to lose that area. That goes back to the February lows into roughly the beginning of March. We don't want to lose that. That's the only thing that we're really kind of looking at. Now, my overall thought process here is chop into the weekend, maybe even over the weekend into next week. We get the ETH ETF approvals next week, then we gigasend. Everyone has been following the ETH ETF approvals, but for the most part, these are going unnoticed right now with all of the fear and the panic in the market. We just got an announcement that Bitwise just filed an amended S1 for spot ETH, which wasn't due until July 8th. Probably just wanted to get it off their plate. And from what I hear, the last round of comments were literally nothing. Equals took 0 time to update. Also, no fee yet. Probably get those next weekish. So as we look at this, like nobody knows when this is going to get approved, but I wouldn't write off the idea of this getting approved next week, especially with the narrative really kind of picking up around ETH ETF. So we have Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin after ETF launched. This goes back to July 3rd, just recently. Also over here, Again, this is right around 2 days ago. Spotted Ethereum ETF set to launch on July 15th. Will this trigger an ETH bull run? I think that we front run all of these dates. Here we have, Ethereum ETFs could come as soon as next week as Bitwise files amended S1 early. Like, there's so many narratives around this, yet nobody's noticing this because everyone's looking at Mt. Gox. They're looking at Germany. They're looking at the price action. They're like, the market's dead. This is what happened during the Bitcoin ETF, approval, right? We chopped sideways. We got the Bitcoin ETF approval on January 10th. We sold off. In fact, we sold off 21.33% before having that massive run up. Guys, I'm not expecting us to sell off again. Everyone is expecting us to sell off again. I'm not expecting it. We already had a 21.23% pullback from our recent highs and an overall 23.09% pullback from the March highs. We already got this major pullback and we're already chopping. So when we get the ETH ETF approval, that's just going to be fuel for us to move higher. So we're already going to probably start that impulse. The ETH ETF approval is just going to be the cherry on top to push us even higher. So to answer the question, is this game over? Not yet. Not yet until we lose the complete structure. We are still sound. We're still good here. I know how scary it is. I know how rough it is. We're still in a bearish structure. We need to maintain the lows. I'm looking at the same exact scenario here for, Bitcoin. We don't want to lose that green zone. We don't even want to touch that green zone. We want to avoid that green zone. We don't want to lose 56,582. Which is the recent low from May. We want to maintain this. So if we can maintain this level, that would be very good in the short term. Obviously, yes, it's going to be pretty rough for the next couple days. The weekly candle close is going to be very telling. Obviously, right now, the weekly candle close looks horrible, but we are resetting sentiment. The overall market sentiment is reset. RSI is reset. So this is a very good sign. I think that the market is just extremely bearish right now. You could argue that this is kind of like bear euphoria. So as we think about that, I'm watching this closely. The next area, if we are going to see it, will be these lows ran down here around roughly 50,000 to 53K. I'm hoping that we don't see that. If we did see it, again, is it bearish? Technically, no, because we're still in that macro uptrend, but I would like for us to avoid this. If we did see this, that would basically look like this, where we kind of chop here and then we get an impulsive move. But I would like for us to avoid this right now. Market is pretty much peak bearish. We could clearly see that in the fear and greed index. We could see that across the board. I don't think anyone right now is saying, hey, I'm so, unless you're buying the dip, obviously you're extremely happy about this, but I'm not seeing a lot of bullish posts. I'm not seeing a lot of, great engagement. The market overall participants have been washed out. There's barely anyone really in crypto right now versus what was here back in March. So as we really look at the market, it's killed. It's completely dead right now. So as we think about that, that's not how the top looks. If you go back to 2020 and 2021 during the top, or even previous cycles, you know what the top feels like. You know what the top looks like. Everyone is extremely happy. Everyone is extremely euphoric. Euphoria will be intoxicating in this market during the tops. We're not there yet, in my opinion. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on for some more free content. You guys are more welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.